is that correct?
Approximately, yeah.
Well, if you wrote this at 9:22, would it be fair to say you were back in your vehicle writing this?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did you take a report?
We issued a business card.
I asked, did you take a report?
No.
Why not?
Because the victim didn't request a report, and during our investigation, we didn't reveal that we needed to take a report.
So who decided to use the words victim advised verbal dispute?
Whoever created the comments of the call used the word victim. Whoever gave the comments of the call used the word victim. So I don't know who that was.
And I'm even more specifically asking who chose the language advised verbal dispute.
It was either my partner or I. I don't recall who.
Now, what is the significance of writing down verbal dispute?
We're writing what happened, what we believe is happening, and what our investigation revealed.
But you were not present at any time when Ms. Heard discussed whether there was any type of verbal argument. Is that correct?
Was I there? Yes. Was I speaking to her? No.
Was there any discussion of verbal argument in your presence when you were up in the penthouse investigating?
Not that I recall.
You did not hear Ms. Heard say that it was only a verbal dispute, correct?
I did not.
Now, I asked you a little earlier if it's a verbal dispute, whether that triggers having to write a report. And you indicated that it does not. Am I accurately characterizing that?
Correct.
Okay. Now, here, in addition to the victim advised verbal dispute, says and refused to give any further information. You see that?
Yes.
Question. Okay, so if the victim does not want to press charges and advises that it's a verbal dispute, then that would not trigger you writing a report. Is that your understanding of LAPD
policies and procedures on domestic violence at that time?
Correct. There were other circumstances that were also within this incident as well.
What do you mean by that?
During our investigation, we had other reasons to believe that this was true.
I'm sorry, during your investigation, you had other reasons to believe what was true?
That it was a verbal dispute.
And what did you have during your investigation that created in your mind evidence that it was only a verbal dispute?
After discussing the investigation with my partner at the scene, Ms. Heard refused any medical treatment and had no visible injuries. There was no sign of struggle, and the victim, the witness that was there that I spoke with was uncooperative as well.
Anything else?
At this time, that's all.
Okay. Now, you recall seeing that Ms. Heard was in tears and was crying and red-faced. Would you agree?
Correct. From a distance.
Well, from a distance, Ms. Heard was in tears, crying, and had a red face, correct?
Correct.
Why did you issue a business card?
It's part of our policy. We're supposed to issue a business card, and it shows that we were there and completed an investigation. And if she would like us to come back, we offered that assistance that we can come back at another time if she feels like she needs us to come back.
Did you take any notes at all?
Notes of what?
Notes during the time that you were investigating this call?
No.
Did you take any notes after you got back down to your car about the call?
No.
Did you take any pictures?
No.
Did you record anything?
No.
Would it be fair to say that on 5/21/2016 at 9:22 p.m., you and your training officer, Science, considered this incident closed?
I said, yes, that is correct. At that time, we pressed enter and the call went off my screen, meaning it was completed.
Did you ever have anything come up on your screen again relating to this incident that evening?
Not that I recall.
All right. At the time that you closed out this incident on your screen at 9:22 on 5/21/2016, did you know that this call involved Johnny Depp?
No.
Did you, at the time that you closed this out on your screen, did you recognize Amber Heard?
No, I had no idea who she was.
And is it fair to say that you considered these people to be, quote, just citizens, end of quote?
That's correct.
Do you have any communications at all with Officer Gatlin or his patrol partner the night of May 21st, 2016?
No, not that I recall.
So the next thing we're going to go to is the CAD summary, which is at page 12 of exhibit number 3. And this is a CAD summary report, and it also has the name DFAR report at the top, and it's for 5/21/2016, and says specifically Officers Hadden and Officers Sines. Do you see that?
Yes.
Typically, when you would arrive for your shift, was there a period of time that you would do things maybe at the precinct or whatever before you get into your vehicle and log on and go forward?
Yes.
All right. What?
And then go and find out if there's any radio calls pending.
Okay. And so how long would it typically take for you to do all those things, from putting your uniform on through the time you start checking for radio calls?
I'm not sure. Approximately an hour.
All right. How many police officers, patrol officers were part of that roll call?
I don't know the exact number. I would say approximately 30.
Okay. And when you said you had to stand in line to check out your equipment, was it all 30 of those patrol officers that would get in line and check out their equipment?
Yes, and supervisors.
Okay. And what equipment were you checking out that night?
A shotgun, a less lethal shotgun, mics for our cameras inside the car, pouches for our mics, batteries for our radios, keys for the cars, taser. I think that's about it right now.
Do you have a recollection of there being cameras inside your car back on May 21, 2016?
Yes, I believe so.
Now, when you arrived at the penthouse, you saw that there was a female holding and embracing Ms. Heard, correct?
I believe it was when I was leaving the location, when we were getting ready to leave.
Okay. Now, you believed that Ms. Heard was uncooperative because she was being emotional, crying. was refusing that she was hurt, and she didn't know initially whether she wanted to file a report or not, and then she didn't want to file a report, correct?
Correct.
Now, you said that Officer Science told you later that Ms. Heard called the number on the business card. Do you recall when Officer Science told you that Ms. Heard called the number on the card?
No, I don't recall.
Do you recall approximately how much time you spent at the penthouse speaking with either the male or with Ms. Heard or looking at the premises that night?
I don't recall right now.
Do you recall roughly whether it was 15 minutes, a half hour, hour?
I don't recall.
I'm going to ask you to take a look at what has been marked as deposition exhibit number 17. I'll just scroll down so you can see that. Hold on. Do you recognize the person in this photo?
I believe that's Ms. Heard.
All right. Is this the same person you saw on the night of May 21st, 2016, when you arrived sometime after 9:04 p.m.? And do you recall seeing the red marks that are reflected on this exhibit number 17 on Ms. Heard?
No, I was never this close to be able to examine her face.
You were never close enough to Ms. Heard to be able to examine her face? Is that what you said?
Correct.
Okay. If you had seen this mark close enough to be able to see it, would you have believed you had an obligation to prepare a report?
No, because I don't know what this is from.
Would you agree it's a red mark on her face?
Yeah,
I'll ask you.
from what I saw was red from her crying. There was no red marks from any other thing. It was consistent with her crying.
Does this look like a red mark that's from crying? Officer Hadden, in reviewing this picture, does it appear that there's an injury on Ms. Heard's face in this picture?
No.
You would say that doesn't evidence an injury?
No.
Why not?
Because I don't see an injury.
I'm going to show you what has been marked as deposition exhibit number 18. And do you recognize this carpeting?
No.
Officer Hadden, what do you see in this picture?
I see stripes with some type of stains on to be a possible flooring.
Okay. Do you have a recollection of seeing stains on the flooring outside of Ms. Heard's penthouse that night of May 21st, 2016?
At this point, not that I recall.
And when you say at this point, not that you can recall, what do you mean by that?
It's 5 years ago. I don't remember.
Officer Hadden, I'm going to show you what has been marked as Hadden exhibit number 19. Do you recognize the business card?
Yes.
And tell me what you can recall of that.
Well, that's my handwriting, and those are our LAPD business cards.
All right. The next thing on there is refuse report. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Was it your understanding that Ms. Heard did not want to press charges?
She spoke with my partner, and that's what my partner advised me.
Okay. Were you ever in the room when Ms. Heard either, quote, refused report or refused to press charges?
I believe we offered her one final chance before we gave her the business card if she needed medical treatment or a report, and she declined at that time, and that's when we issued this business card.
And what did you mean by report?
An official investigative report.
Is that the victim's choice to write, whether you write an official investigative report?
Yes. A citizen can ask for a report for anything, essentially, with LAPD.
But do you have an obligation as an LAPD patrol officer to write a report if you see injuries or property damage?
If there's evidence of a crime, yes.
And when you say if there's evidence of a crime, would injuries and property damage constitute evidence of a crime?
If there's evidence of a crime, yes.
Okay. Is there something different about what you're saying than what I'm asking? Well, I'm trying to understand when I say if you see evidence of injuries and property damage, is that evidence of a crime in your mind?
Yes, if the person didn't do it themselves. I mean, I can damage my own property and it's not a crime.
Okay. Did you have any reason to believe that Amber Heard created any injuries to herself or to the property at the time you were there on May 21st, 2016?
No, because I don't recall seeing any damaged property or her obtaining any injuries or having visible injuries that I saw.
Now, it says, advised can call at later time if changes mind. What, if any, discussion did you have with Officer Sines about what that meant?
Well, that goes with what I said earlier was a citizen can make a report about anything at any time. It's called an investigative report or just an incident report. So if she wanted a report, then she would call us back and we'll take a report.
But at that point, you have already written into your system that the victim advised verbal dispute only, correct?
Correct.
And you did not write a report or take pictures or create any kind of record, did you, of anything that transpired there?
Just the business part.
I'm going to ask you, Officer Hadden, to take a look at what has been marked as deposition exhibit number 24. Do you recognize the person in this picture?
Miss Heard?
Well, do you recognize her as Ms. Heard?
No. I had no idea who she was.
Do you recognize the person in this picture on Hadden exhibit number 24 as the person who was the subject of your and Officer Sines reporting to the Eastern Columbia building that evening?
Correct.
All right, so let's go to exhibit number 24. And what do you see in this picture with respect to whether there is any injury depicted on Ms. Heard?
I see a female white, fair skin with pink cheek.
I'm sorry, with a what?
Pink cheek and pink eyes.
All right. Do you recognize that as a potential injury on her face?
Knowing what our investigation revealed, no, that pink's consistent with Brian.
What do you mean by what your investigation revealed?
That it was a verbal dispute. And she refused that she had any injury.
And just so we're clear again, you were never in the presence of Ms. Heard when she at any time said it was only a verbal dispute, correct?
Correct.
Now, would you as a police officer investigating, if you saw this, what's depicted in this picture, would you believe that you need to investigate further?
Yeah, I would need additional information. Just because I see a female with pink cheeks and pink eyes doesn't mean that something happened. They should be sad and crying that their dog died.
Did you engage in any further investigation?
No, the only investigation I did was part of speaking with my partner and then speaking with the witness. With the witness, the next door neighbor.
And what did you discuss with the witness, the next door neighbor?
I tried to obtain information of what occurred.
What did you ask?
Who, what, when, where, why.
And what did he say?
I don't remember his exact words, but he wasn't very coming with the information. I had very vague information as far as what he was telling me.
What do you specifically recall the witness telling you?
I don't recall.
You don't recall at all?
I don't recall specific words or sentences.
Do you recall the witness taking you around and showing you property damage in the penthouse?
No, I recall my partner and I doing a protective sweep, and that's it.
You don't recall Josh Drew being with you and taking you through?
I don't recall if someone else was with us or not.
Do you recall one way or the other?
I don't recall.
All right. Now, you have a recollection of you and Officer Science going through the entire penthouse, is that correct?
We did a protective sweep of the location that she was at.
And tell me what you mean by protective sweep.
We walked through the general housing area that she is at to make sure that there's no one else in there that shouldn't be there, or there's no one hurt.
Do you recall how many rooms you went through?
No, I don't.
I'm going to ask you, Officer Hadden, to take a look at number 25. Do you recognize this as Ms. Heard?
Yes.
All right. And do you see any injuries depicted on this picture?
No.
I'm going to show you what has been marked as exhibit number 26. Do you recognize this as Ms. Heard?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see any injuries in this picture?
No.
I'm going to ask you the same question. Exhibit number 27. Do you recognize this as Ms. Heard?
Yes.
And do you see any injuries in this picture on Ms. Heard?
No.
I'm going to ask the same questions. Officer Hadden, I'm going to ask you to look at Hadden exhibit number 28. Do you recognize this as Ms. Heard?
Yes.
And do you see any injuries depicted on Ms. Heard's face in this picture?
No.
I'll show you exhibit number 29. Do you recognize this as Ms. Heard?
Yes.
Do you see any injuries on Ms. Heard in this picture?
No.
Now, you indicated that you and Officer Sines went through the apartment, correct?
Correct. We did a protective sweep.
Protective sweep. And in doing the protective sweep, you did go in the room, correct?
I mean, I don't know exactly where we went, but we walked around what she claimed was her living quarters.
Would you agree that if Ms. Heard displayed injuries at the time that you reported to her residence after the domestic violence call, that you would have had an obligation